What comes to mind when I mention the Crying Indian commercial, which is, by the way, the actual name of that public service announcement from the 70s? Do you think that is one of the top 50 most successful advertising campaigns of the 20th century? Or can you hear that incredibly powerful tagline, people start pollution, people can stop it? Or like most, do you picture that single, slow, rolling tear down the cheek of Iron Eyes Cody? When I think of that commercial, I think of this little guy turning to his stepmom and asking her, why is he crying? And my stepmom explaining, he's crying because we are hurting the earth with pollution. And the little guy saying, no, no, no. Why is he crying by himself? Can't we all see the pollution? So that little guy and that commercial are major impacts on my leadership journey. You see, my motivation to lead is to model a compassionate and inclusive approach that creates a safe space and a place at the table for all, that honors many different rights, diversity of opinion, diversity of experience, and diversity of perspective. Earlier this year, I was able to attend an HR manager's training regarding increasing accountability among associates. And this image was used to depict how we are all different. Can you see it? The little guy in me could and forced me to raise my hand and declare. That image fails to demonstrate how we are all different. And it fails to show how we are diverse and inclusive. Now, I know that the upper echelons of OhioHealth senior leadership are committed, genuinely committed, to diversity and inclusion at our organization. I know this because they recently raised the role of the individual who would be responsible for diversity and inclusion at OhioHealth to a vice president level. And then they spent the better part of a year performing a nationwide search to find that one right person to protect and to promote diversity and inclusion at OhioHealth. And I'm happy to report that in February of 2017, Todd Corley, our Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, started. I'm aware that there are some of you who will need a business case to understand the importance of diversity. So I will give you two. But I want to assure you that there have been mountains of research spanning decades. And they all generally conclude that we are better when we are diverse. In 2013, there was a comparison of Fortune 500 companies. Companies with the most female representation on their boards compared to companies with the least female representation. And what that study found was that those companies with the most board members that were female, they were more successful. They were more successful not only on return on investment, return on sales, but also on return on equity. In March of 2017, the Harvard Business Review published the works of two researchers who had spent more than a dozen years administering a strategic execution exercise to more than 100 different teams. And what their research concluded was that those teams that had the greatest diversity and how the members themselves process information, approach problems, solved complex situations, it was those teams that were the only teams that were successful in solving the exercise within the allotted time. So knowing that diversity works, and knowing that we can see where we are on that spectrum, both individually and collectively as a system, and knowing that when it works, we literally, actually, physically feel it. The next time you are sitting across the table from a prospective candidate, I ask that you consider offering the position to the individual who doesn't necessarily make you the most comfortable. I ask you consider the individual who does not necessarily have a shared experience with you, a shared religion, a shared perspective, or a shared complexion. Thank you.